Hello, is it working? I'm a minute late because I'm still stuffing around, but let me just, I keep doing this, don't I? I'm always a little bit late to get started, but hang on, I just want to get some hand cream as well. I'm sorry. All right, yeah, no, I've been a little bit disorganized the last few live streams, but we'll sit down somewhere in just a moment. I'm gonna grab my tea. Oh, sorry. Hey, Danny. Just getting myself set up. We can go out here today. Let me just make sure also that the chat is working properly, because it keeps doing top chat, and I'm like, I'm not a big enough channel to need top chat. I'm fine with the regular live chat. So let me just set up my tripod again as well. Hey, Hopi, what you up to? Uh-oh. It's going a bit funny, isn't it? Da la 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 la. Okay. And then we can pop this on here. And we're good, almost. Okay. Oh, and the thing is not on properly. Okay, I think we're good. Let me get that so it doesn't fall down. All right, hello. So, it's been kind of a busy week, but I am now in chill mode, and I was chilling out a little bit too much. I was just watching a video about free speech versus hate speech, which is one of those thorny topics that comes up every now and then. And yeah, it wasn't really, well, I was sort of paying attention at the time, but it was one of those ones that I had to watch in 1.5 times speed to be able to get it done and, you know, do the last few things I needed to do. Hey, I'll be in and out for the next hour. No worries, we'll go for as long as we can. So yeah, watching stuff, being distracted, slept in today. But so what's been going on this week? So let me just bring you a little bit closer, hey? Yeah, no, so apart from Destroy a video on Monday, I think I put it out there. That same day I also filmed a video for the video game guys. Whoops, let me just pop that down there. Yeah, filmed a video for the video game guys and spent a while editing that. And then, you know, they only wanted like a 30 to 60 second sort of example clip of the videos I'd make them, but of course, me being me, that game looks fun. Yeah, so you saw it, awesome. Yeah, no, that's the trailer. I've put the trailer out on Patreon. It's just a 1-minute one, but because I made a full 30-minute video, I had to cut it down to fit the 30 to 60 second sort of thing, and it's slightly over a minute, but they weren't too strict on that, so I was like, okay, cool. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing most of this week. I did have bonsai on Wednesday, and then yesterday was sort of my recovery day, but finishing up this video, the trailer version. So I think I finished the actual video itself on Tuesday. And then, yeah, I had to cut it down to a minute. So it's a trailer now, like the minute-long version is a trailer with some of my new music in the background. Makes it probably seem more exciting than I think the actual video will be, but I don't know, I guess trailers are meant to do that, they're meant to hook you in. Anyway, so I sent it off to the video game guys. They're now going to review it, or like everyone's submissions. I think submissions close on Wednesday, and then after that they'll decide who they want to hire. Now, for those of you who are wondering what's going to happen to my videos, the phone keeps going off. I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to resist my sort of natural instinct to go out to the damn phone and just ignore it, because I've had like one I picked up, no one answered. I was like, hello, and it's just silence. And I think it was from Melbourne. Another one was an overseas one, so I didn't even pick it up. And God knows what this phone call is. I've just had it. Anyway, so I've made a 30-minute video game video and also a 1-minute trailer. If these guys don't hire me, I will be putting those videos on this channel. So none of this stuff is ever wasted for me, you know? I can make videos for people, and if they don't go with it, fine, that's cool, because you guys will get to see it anyway. So I think I'll find out whether or not I get the job late next week or early the week after. Depends on like how many people they've got and how much stuff they have to watch. Presumably most of the other people will have actually done the 30 to 60 second video and not been a nut job like me who just goes and makes 30-minute videos. But yeah, so, you know, but if there are more people like me doing long videos, then they might have a lot of stuff to watch in between actually doing their jobs. So Yeah, I'm not sure exactly when I'll find out. But, you know, wish me luck, because I sort of was thinking about it, and I'm like, you know, it really would be good to have an income while making YouTube. Just makes so much stuff less stressful. Because like, if you've been following, you know, previously when I was depressed and worrying about money and all that kind of stuff, some kind of financial security would be good. And the fact that it's still connected to YouTube and I can still do all this stuff, because YouTube, I think, is the main thing I've been enjoying over the last little while. Like, YouTube, and also writing my new songs. My new song's finally starting to feel like it's going somewhere. The lyrics are taking a little bit of time to get right, but you know, I'm liking the vibe. If I could, you know, have an income while doing YouTube, that would be amazing. But if they don't hire me, that's fine, because the video that I made, it's basically a let's play, but because it's kind of an example of what I would do for the guys, it's like combining a review with the let's play, with sort of a vlogish style thing, with like technical how-to kind of stuff. I just crammed as many different genres into the one video, and it worked quite naturally because of the topic that I chose. So yeah, where was I going with that? Yeah, I don't know what I was about to say. Oh my god, my brain's just like, woo. Anyway, so that, like, what I was going to say is I enjoyed the process of making it. The hardest part is done, because the reason that video combines so many different genres is because it's kind of like an introduction to the game, and then now that that's done, I can basically do the let's play thing. And for me, it's a little bit technically challenging, partly because my computer is a bit shit, and partly because I don't have a webcam. So I'm manually syncing the phone's footage of me with the game capture, which to get that right is a little bit tricky. But I've got the basics down, and I don't have to do heaps of editing. So if they don't bring me onto their team, it will appear on my channel, and then I'm just going to do a full series of let's play of this game, because it's one of my favorite games ever, and it was so much fun making the example video and the trailer. So yeah, in terms of how that fits in with the rest of my content, probably I would either add it as like a third thing I do every week. I'm not sure exactly when, so what, early in the week I do a normal video about whatever. Later in the week I do a live stream. Maybe I could make a video game thing like the weekend kind of video that goes up. I don't know, I'll think about it. But that, like, I've got to find out what's happening, because I don't know whether or not I'm going to have a job or just keep doing this channel only. So yeah, we'll see. But if it gets too much in terms of, you know, juggling other things I need to do in my life, maybe I'll alternate it with my early in the week content. So like 1 week do a video talking about stuff, the next week do the let's play. I don't know, we'll see what happens. So there's some plans for things that might be happening. If they do end up hiring me, I guess we'll find out what happens, but presumably I would be doing the let's play on their channel as well, amongst other stuff. They don't want to just be a let's play channel, there'd be like reviews of stuff and whatever mixed in. So yeah, some exciting stuff. One way or another, you're gonna get some video game videos out of me. So I don't know how many of you guys are particularly keen, but they will be coming in some form or another. I've already actually got it all set up on my channel, because like I had to send them unlisted videos just to make it easier. Like Dropbox is a pain in the butt, so it's already loaded up onto my channel. And yeah, it was, the main video was like 2 gigabytes, more than 2 gigabytes wouldn't fit into my Dropbox anyway, so it's just easier to upload it to YouTube, send them an unlisted link, which also meant I could send the trailer to Patreon. Yeah, so if they say no, then the moment they say no, I will release the trailer, and then give you like a day or so before I put the next one. I can't get the Dropbox app on my phone to work. Yeah, I don't use Dropbox on my phone, I only use it on my desktop, so I don't know anything about that. I really do prefer working on a desktop. Working on a phone's a pain in the butt. This phone does some amazing stuff, but I don't think I could ever use it as my main machine. Yeah, I do need to replace my desktop computer at some point. It's just getting a little bit old and a little bit slow, and if I am legitimately going to make YouTube more of a full-time thing, then yeah, I probably do need to invest in something that can actually edit videos without taking a year. The processing is a pain in the butt. But you know, like it's surviving. It's just I've got to be a little bit patient. And the problem about being patient is sometimes like if I'm waiting for the computer to do something, I'll check something on my phone and then maybe get distracted by that because you know, I mean when my computer's processing stuff, I try not to use anything else on it. So I might check Facebook on my phone, which is not ideal because like it's so tiny and oh my god, the phone again. Is that someone who's actually trying to... I'm just gonna check because that's twice in like however long. I'll be right back, guys. Let's see who this is. Right, caller. Sounds like a call center. Hope you don't worry about it. Hope you don't worry about it. I wasn't saying hello to anyone actually. Hi! Oh, I don't know. Sorry about that, guys. Take care if you finish before then. Okay, see you, Charles. Yeah, no, I think that was just like another call center. I'm like, hello, and then there's that gap that lets you know it's being bounced from wherever. It said private caller, and then the guy, I think he was trying to say he was from Telstra, but he had such a heavy accent and was so quiet I couldn't tell, and then he's like saying hello, and there's such a huge delay. Bloody, I hate those call centers. They just annoy me. Like, that's the worst thing about being one of the few people on the planet who still has a landline. I like the idea of having a landline though, but unfortunately landlines do seem to get most of the spam. It's just, I don't get that level of spam on my mobile, and then if I do, I just block the number, which I can't do on my landline, but hey, whatever. I don't know, it's just like growing up with a landline, I'm reluctant to let it go, because that's like one of the first sequence of numbers I ever learned, and yeah, anyway. What were we talking about before the phone rang? Oh man. Once again, I'm still trying to finish off this tea. I did manage to have lunch before the stream though. Also I've got this, the phone can't replace a desktop yet. It does a great job streaming though. Oh yeah! I was talking about phones and desktops and so on. Oh man. Yeah, I really need to upgrade my computer. I'm gonna have to when Windows 7 goes out anyway. I think I mentioned before previously I was just going to get like a small little Surface tablet kind of thing. Was that more stuff falling from the roof? Oh my god. We've still got this broken roof up there. We were also going to get the electrician in to fix this light, but Mum tried to call him and got no answer and left a message and has got no response back. So, you know, like hopefully the guy's okay and nothing's gone wrong, but it just seems a bit unusual for that guy to not respond. He was so positive when he came around fixing our kitchen up. Anyway, distraction. It's kind of windy still in Sydney. It was windy yesterday, windy today. I probably should go out for a walk, but I don't really like to when the weather's annoying, which is unfortunate because the weather's almost always annoying. Anyway, yeah, no, so desktop was going to get a little tablet thing, but it's not going to be enough now that there's so many problems with it, and I just keep thinking about it and being like, gee, I mean, I'm probably going to still keep that computer. I don't know, I wonder if I could take it to that other room and just steal some space for it. I need to think about what I'm going to do, but I want to keep that computer because there's still some stuff that's kind of useful on it. But as a main machine, doing video editing and photo editing, it's a pain in the butt. It takes way too long. So yeah, I will have to update. It's just like, how full on do I go in terms of upgrading computers? I don't know. I'll have to decide that at some point. What else has been happening? You're having an energy drink. I don't think I've ever had an energy drink. Maybe like a sip, and I probably didn't like it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just not that interested. I don't know. What kind of energy drink are you drinking? While I try and finish this tea so I stop being distracted. I don't know, there might still be a delay in terms of the streaming thing, hey. Oh man. But yeah, and I suppose like depending on what computer I get, you know, like these days some of the screens come with little webcams built in. Maybe I should get one of them just so that I can do a little bit, because like if I want to do Red Bull and stuff. Yeah, no, if I've tried an energy drink, it's probably been Red Bull, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have. I don't know. I think like I get very set in my ways and I can be reluctant to try new things sometimes, but paradoxically, sometimes I will jump right into new things. I don't know. I'm a little bit weird. I'm a little bit all over the place in that sense, you know, different extremes and whatever. Maybe that's just the nature of me. Mm. Oh man, I've got this terrible ulcer. I don't know if I should show you. I don't know how much I'll be able to show on the camera anyway, but right here, it's fucking painful on the inside of my lip. And so I've just been like attacking it with the Medigel, but I'm trying not to use it too much. I think today it's finally starting to get to the healing stage. It's really annoying. When it starts off, you know, it's just like you can see where it's starting to form. And in the past, you remember I told you guys about those little pad things that I would put between my teeth? Like at night I wear those Invisalign retainers and so on. So at night I would put a little pad in there to separate the mouth ulcer from the dental stuff, right? In the hopes that, you know, if the dental stuff is scratching against my lip or wherever the ulcer is, that might put some distance and stop it from rubbing. But last time I did that, the mouth ulcer got worse anyway. So, you know, I didn't do it this time until it really got bad, just to stop it being so painful. My poor puppy had like an ulcer or something on his eye. Something like the most outer layer not healing properly because of blinking or scratching, because he's an older dog. Lots of eye meds. Oh no, that sounds terrible. Ooh. Yeah, damn. Yeah, no, I just get a lot in my mouth. I'm not really sure why. The interesting thing, like, you know, how it gets worse even though I try and protect it, right? That's why I wonder if maybe there is some kind of viral or bacterial thing that gets in there and attacks it, and then my body takes a while to, you know, figure out that something's going on and then heal it. But every time they've done a swab for a virus, like the main virus they usually look for, I think, is like mouth herpes. I don't know what the name is for that. It's all the same kind of virus. Like, you know, almost every human has it. I don't remember the exact percentage, some stupidly common thing. So they'd swab it and nothing ever comes back positive. So I kind of just like, you know, at least if it came back positive, we'd have an idea of how to treat it. But no, I just get these really bad mouth ulcers. I'm sure there's potential for some diet problems because I am a pretty picky eater, but you know, like my mum's figured out ways to get me to eat vegetables. She'll sneak vegetables into like there's this one she does where she wraps meat around Epstein-Barr or something. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's been a while since I looked at it. It's just like on my mind right now because it's painful. Although today it is like yesterday and the day before, trying to numb it, it would only last like not that long, the numbing, and then I'd have to like just try and ignore it. It was quite bad last night, but this morning, you know, it's finally starting to look like it's properly healing, because before it was quite deep as well, and I was just like, oh, no wonder it's so painful. But now it's starting to flatten out and it's starting to heal. So today, not so bad, but yeah, no, it's so distracting, especially like, you know, I'm trying to edit and my mouth is just in pain and I'm trying to like focus on doing the things, and oh, you know, it's hard to concentrate sometimes when you've got that much pain. Dear oh dear, I'm almost finished. All right, we can set our Dalek aside. So, what else has been happening? I don't really have any particular agenda. Like, I've already gone through the video gaming stuff. We'll have the trailer for you. Oh, that's the other thing. Punk Rave Australia. I have no idea what's going on with that. They've been sitting on one of my reviews for like, I don't know how long, but I think I might have given it to them before this month even started. So I don't know why it hasn't been posted publicly. I thought it was maybe because they were waiting for one of the other reviewers to get something in, but now I know one of the reviewers does have something in there. It's been in there for a week. I think if it doesn't go up later today, I might actually send an email to Punk Rave Australia just to check everything's okay, because I know it's like a small business. Well, I assume from the sounds of it, it seems like a small business. So I'm a little bit worried that, you know, maybe there's something going on there, maybe everything's not right. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just like a little bit, they were really well engaged early on, but right now I'm not really getting much communication. I sent the last video, didn't get any feedback back from them, didn't hear from them until they wanted to get another reviewer in who's never done YouTube before and needed some help. So they're like, oh, hey, can you help this person? And I'm like, okay, sure, and sent very detailed how to do videos, like, you know, answered the questions I was told to answer, sent a template of how I organize those kinds of videos. And that person did eventually get back to me, although I haven't heard from them since they said they were going to try it, and, you know, but, yeah, no, it's just like nothing about the video that I've submitted, and it's definitely waiting there in Dropbox. And I only got this correspondence about helping someone else, so I don't really know what's going on with Punk Rave Australia. I don't know if I'm going to be getting something else to review this month, but that other review should be coming out at some point. I don't know, I need to chase it up. I'm a little bit worried that something's going on, because in the beginning they were really good communicators, so it's a bit unusual for something like this, like it's just weird for them to be so quiet, so I'm a bit like, I wonder if something's gone wrong. And you know, they're all the way in Queensland, so I don't know, I'm not sure what's going on, but I do still have one Punk Rave Australia video waiting in the wings, along with the video game stuff that will either come out on this channel or the gaming channel, depending on what happens. So that, yeah, there's some content waiting to go live. In terms of like my other regular content, right? So I've been doing some Destroyer videos, but I feel like I need to mix it up with some other stuff. So, sorry, I'm burping just because I just had tea, but I'm kind of thinking like maybe for next week I might try and do a video on something else, just to have a little bit of variety, because not everyone who watches this channel came here for that kind of stuff. And on, you know, I'm kind of like not in the right headspace to probably do it this week, although who knows, the weekend's coming up. Maybe I'll watch some interesting movie and then I'll get crazy again, or I don't know. Also, it's still a little bit difficult to film just because it's school holidays, and also Mum's schedule is a little bit unpredictable at the moment. There's so much change going on, so I've got to figure out exactly when to film. Yeah, no, if anyone has like a topic that they really want me to get onto, like now, as soon as possible, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just keep looking at my, like, you know, I've got a list of videos, video requests, video ideas, whatever. I'll just go through that and choose something that suits my mood and make a video about that. So yeah, maybe next week I'll try and mix it up with what I do on my early in the week content. And then I'll do a stream later in the week again, hopefully, assuming, you know, everything's good with family and, you know, having the house to myself. But yeah, so those are the plans coming up. Yeah, so this week was pretty busy, but having finished those videos to submit to the video game guys, I now have like all this time to just not worry about anything employment related. I'm not working next week at the bonsai place, so I can just chill, keep writing my new song, working on the lyrics. I was working a little bit on it last night, and there's some lyrics that are coming. I'm sort of starting to get a better idea of the story that I want to tell in this song. So yeah, it's just sort of slowly coming together. I'm trying not to force things too much. The first verse is really difficult, trying to figure out exactly how to do it, because I've got so many different alternative lines that I could slot in there, but none of them quite feel right. I think I've maybe got the start of something for the second half of the first chunk. It's hard to explain without grabbing the music out. But yeah, no, it's coming along okay. I'm hoping I'll finish that in the next week, because then I really need to rehearse if I want to go and perform. And I probably need to go and secure my spot at the open mic place. There's a lot to do, but I'm doing things. Maybe the only thing that I'm a bit slack on is like visual art. Yeah, there's just so much else going on. It's been a little bit hard to really just sit down and do it, you know what I mean? I've also been struggling to get started reading the Book of Sith. I think I read the introduction last night, but it's so noisy, is yeah, you know, my brother who's a teacher, he's on holiday because it's school holidays, and yeah, he just runs around making so much noise. And you know, it turns out he talks to himself out loud even when he's alone and not just to annoy me. Oh, it is so funny. Um, yeah, no, he's an interesting dude. It's too bad, like, I probably shouldn't talk too much about him just because, you know, he's not like me in the terms of, like, just saying whatever. He's a little bit more sensitive. But there's so many funny things that he does that I think are just kind of adorable. Anyway, he'd get embarrassed if he knows I said he was adorable on camera. uh, Anyway, so yeah, that's sort of all the things that I can think of in terms of updating you what's going on with my life, what's been going on in the past week. I probably need to exercise a little bit more. I'm thinking, like, with Hope's anxiety problem, maybe when I take him for fake walks to the vet, like, you know, we walk to the vet, but we don't actually, he's not actually going to the vet, it's just to get him going on that route. He still gets pretty anxious. And so I'm sort of thinking, well, the vet sells like little pig's ears and cheap treats like that. Maybe I could actually walk into the vet, walk in, show him that I'm buying a treat, and then bring it home and he can eat it, and maybe he'll sort of get an idea that sometimes when we go to the vet, it's to get something nice. The only thing is, like, because he's so anxious, when we get up to the vet, he kind of stops paying attention to anything except his own anxiety and his desire to get home. Like, whenever we actually go to the vet for a proper appointment, they try and give him a treat, and he won't take it. He won't even acknowledge that a treat is in front of his face. If I take the treat, though, and go home, he will eat it. It's like, you know, so even if I buy him something at the vet and just take him straight home, I feel like, yeah, is he going to realize, is he going to make that connection, or is he just gonna still be in anxiety world and not connect that sometimes good things happen at the vet? I don't know. But yeah, no, I'm worried about his teeth. Like, it's not terrible, it's just like his breath is a little bit smelly and his teeth don't look as good as Marley's. So, you know, I've been getting him eating greenies, which are like, they're actually shaped as like a toothbrush, but they're like chews that are supposed to help them clean their teeth. But he eats it so fast. The one that is supposed to be designed for a dog of his weight just isn't good enough. So I don't think I'm going to get them again because they're too soft. He eats them too quickly. I think the dentist sticks he used to eat are much better, and I still get them every now and then. But even then, you know, he probably needs to eat some harder stuff, or I don't know, God help me if I have to use an actual toothbrush to brush his teeth. I don't think that's going to go down well with him at all. So yeah, tricky. How do I get him into better teeth habits? Because sometimes if you give him a treat that's too hard, he gives up, you know. He'll sort of look at you like, what is this? And then, you know, Marley will have to eat it until it's soft enough that he can go and get it again. And it's like, that's kind of defeating the purpose, Hopi. Wouldn't it be right that my dog has mental problems just like me? Dogs are meant to be like their owners, right? I mean, my first dog, Allie, I think because, like, I was still at school, so I wasn't home a lot, and she didn't sleep in my room, and so on. Whereas Hope does sleep in my room, and I'm home a lot of the time because, you know, I'm a mess. So yeah, we're a lot closer. He sleeps, well, actually, he doesn't sleep in my room anymore, except like early in the mornings. I wonder if I can show you. I'm gonna try and turn the camera around, okay? So, do you see that basket? That basket is where he sleeps now. And that little whole under table area, there's a few other cushions in there. That whole under table area is basically his room. He's like a teenager now. Oh, actually, while we're looking at stuff, let me just loosen this. See that we still got the hole in the roof, and we still have random dangly light bulb. So yeah, things are a little bit, I mean, like, you know, it's fine. The light works, and the hole in the roof has been patched up. That little gutter thing the guy put in works well. We've had a bit of rain, and we've got no more leaking, so that's good. But yeah, it's just like, a little bit of chaos. Anyway, so Hope has his own little teenager hideout. He's like, he got his own little cubby house. And so at night, I think that's usually where he sleeps. Sometimes he'll sleep on one of the couches in here. But yeah, he does his teenager thing. So when we go to bed, like before we go to bed, I'll get I send him out to pee while I'm doing stretches. And then when we're ready to go to bed, I get a treat, take him to my room, and then he does treats on my bed, and then I give him a final pat, and then he runs out, and then he'll go and sleep wherever he wants to sleep. It's just like early in the morning, he's usually sleeping on the pillows next to my bed. So kind of adorable, but he's also like a teenager, you know. I don't want to sleep in the same room as mum, that's not cool, but then he gets cold or scared or whatever, and he's like, save me, I want to go, you know, that kind of thing. Oh dear, he's so funny, and of course he loves his grandma. Anyway, dogs. Well, how did I get onto the topic of dogs? I don't even know. What's going on? Did I miss any comments in the meantime? No, I just went on an unprompted rant. Well, yeah, if there's anything you want me to touch on, comments, whatever, let me know. Otherwise, I will just keep rambling whatever pops into my head. You guys are kind of interesting in that sometimes you'll be really quiet, but then every now and then a huge set of conversations will pop up in the live chat and I won't be able to keep up. Anyway, I guess so what's been going on in Sydney, in Australia? I don't know, we had a lot of rain, but now it's just windy. What about bonsai? At bonsai, so the first half of the day we worked on some really massive trees. And this is one of those areas where being female, and especially a small female, kind of sucks because I just don't have the muscle to get some of those plants out of the plastic pots. It's harder to get them out of plastic pots for some reason. But yeah, no, the circumference, like that's how big it was around, and I'm trying to pull the tree out of it, and it just wasn't budging. I even like went around the edges with the stabby thing. No, still didn't come out, had to get my boss to pull it out for me, so then I could finally get into the roots and see what's going on with it. So we had some really big trees to work on there, and then once we got through them, we started working on the smaller starter plants for, you know, the starter plants before they become bonsai. Often keeping them in plastic pots is good because like there's more space, there's more soil, it's less stressful, it doesn't dry out in the same way. I don't know the exact theory, but if you're trying to train a bonsai early on, sometimes it's better to have it in the plastic pots anyway, to help it grow in a more healthy way, whereas once you put it in a bonsai pot, it becomes a little bit more restricted. Yeah, and there's only so much space for soil and roots and whatever. So yeah, all those starter ones we had to repot because, you know, the whole bunch of weeds you got to get out, and then you got to trim the roots to make sure the root system stays nice. Also, my boss and his mum, who's like my original sensei, she was there all day as well, which is always fun. She's fun to be around. I think sometimes she forgets that I'm employed by them because, like, you know, she'll treat me like a friend and all that, and I'm like, yes, okay, but I am working for you. So like she'll thank me for cleaning up and like offer me tea and all that, and I'm like, you know, I'm here to work and like it's my job to clean up and all that. It's kind of adorable. Yeah, because like we've known each other for so long. I think when did I first bump into them? Must have been like 2003. I think 2003 is when I made my first bonsai. I'm not sure if I visited them the year before that. Would have been with my grandma. But yeah, no, so I've sort of known them for ages. They used to have a nursery at a different place before they came to the current place. Yeah, and then she was asking me about YouTube because I think they've got like this bonsai club as well as the main nursery and the studio, and they do lessons and whatever. Apart from that, they've got like a club. I don't know what they really do. It's not really my thing. I think they do demonstrations and talks and whatever, and I prefer to be more hands-on without people telling me too much to do. Like, of course, when you're doing a lesson, sure, but, and then, you know, as part of my job, sure, I've got to do it a particular way, but if it's more of a voluntary thing, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm just going to make bonsai my own way. So there's that. And yeah, in this club, apparently one of the guys or was it the club or a lesson? I don't know. Someone that she was talking to had been looking up videos about bonsai on YouTube, and they came across my video, and we were talking about how in 2006 I made that video, and she was like, yeah, is that the same one that you did in 2006 that you put on YouTube a few years later? And I'm like, yeah, it's exactly the same video. It's one of my, it's like, it actually is my most watched video on YouTube. Hey, Drew. Yeah, and so she was asking me, like, can anyone make YouTube? Like, how did you get approved to do that? And I'm like, you make an account, you upload a thing. Because she's got like some videos. When I met her, like before I made my own DVD about bonsai, which is where those videos come from, I think we got one of her DVDs demonstrating bonsai and like the basic forms and so on. And like, she could put that stuff on YouTube if she wanted to. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really looking to teach people how to YouTube, but it'd be kind of cute. But yeah, no, someone was like, hey, found this one. And yeah, that is me. When I was small and very shy, I was so shy filming those bonsai videos. Oh my God. But yeah, my bonsai basics video is my most watched video of all time. Lately, the most watched video like per month has generally been my Dell 4 beeps code fixing my RAM video. Although this month, I think the last live stream I did for some reason managed to top that and like just got so much watch time. That was a little bit crazy. Yeah, and then so it sort of was my bonsai video for ages, but I think a lot of people must be getting problems with their Dell computers and with their RAM and with the 4 beeps code, because a lot of people have been watching that video, and apparently it has helped some people, which is cool. I didn't expect it. Like, I kind of just made that video for you guys, being like, hey, here's something annoying in my life. I bet these guys will be interested to see me like fighting my computer. But yeah, no, a lot of people have actually found it helps them solve their problems. So it's funny when you make a video, you never know who it might end up helping or who might end up being interested. So yeah, that was one of those sort of happy accidents, I guess. Yeah, I guess as those Dell computers get older, a lot of people start having the same problems, and yeah, I just happen to have a thing about how to fix it. So yeah, for the most of my YouTube, since I've had access to those analytics, my top video has been the bonsai basics, but then it's sort of gotten overtaken by the Dell one. Also, my cover of This Fire Burns has been doing pretty well. I'm sorry, this is actually starting to hurt, so I'm just going to put a bit more of this on, and I'm probably going to cringe because it's painful when you first put it on, but then it starts numbing it and you're like, yay. Ow, ow, ow. Oh, yeah. Ah, it's painful, but it'll go numb and just get damn. Anyway, and I've got stuff all over my finger. Anyway, I probably do need to just make sure I'm getting all the right vitamins and so on, or whatever. Maybe that'll help me not get so much pain there. Just like mouth ulcers. I think in America you call them like canker sores or something. I think that's the same thing. I don't know. I get a little bit confused with some of the words from America, but hey, we call them mouth ulcers. But yeah, probably. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something wrong with my diet. I mean, every time I get a blood test, it usually shows up as normal, and the main things I tend to be lacking. I think I've been low on vitamin D in the past, and then like still healthy but borderline low for iron in the past. Yeah, but I do think I probably need to have more fruit and vegetables. I really like carbs, turns out, like pasta, potatoes, rice, those are sort of my go-tos. Mum's pretty good at making sure I get a variety. It's just like, maybe I should try and think about that more myself. Every now and then I get pretty bad leg cramp, which happened about 2 weeks ago, and Mum used to apparently get a lot of bad leg cramps when she was really young. So what do I take for that? Berocca, and then I'll be fine for a while. And then I don't know what triggers it, but I might get one again later, and it's a pain in the butt, or a pain in the leg if we're trying to be literal. Yeah, so maybe I am lacking in something, although I think that's like magnesium or some kind of salt. Health stuff can be hard to figure out, but I do feel like if I'm gonna do YouTube, if I end up doing YouTube more as a full-time thing, I probably do need to take care of my health some more, just because like YouTube is a very, for me at least, is a very indoorsy thing, especially you get onto editing and you're sitting at a desk for a long time. You know, I've started doing, I took a break from doing my stretches, my leg stretches and, you know, whatever, because, oh my God, suddenly it's getting dark. I took a break because I was trying to learn to do the splits, but I think I overdid it, and it was just like I was just getting pain in my legs from doing that too much. So I stopped for a while, but I've started doing just basic leg stretches again because sitting at a computer for ages, I was starting to get that hip pain again. So there's some particular dynamic stretches that seem to help it the most. So I've been doing that more. Yeah, and that's just from sitting for a couple of days at the computer, not doing much exercise. So I feel like I really do need to get better at exercise. I like rice, Uncle Ben's. Uncle Ben's, I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, I like rice, but I definitely have a bias towards Japanese style steamed rice. Growing up with like the half white, half Japanese kind of thing, when I went to my white grandparents' place and they made rice, I was like, this rice is weird. And it's because they cook it, Australians cook rice in a way that doesn't make it stick together properly. So yeah, that always was kind of odd. I think it was easier for me to accept like Indian styles of rice. You know what kind is it? I don't know, the yellow kind of rice. I think I can accept that a little bit easier because it like actually looks different, so you kind of expect it to behave differently. But if it's white rice, I tend to like prefer the Japanese style because it's just what I've grown up on. Yeah, anyway. What exercise? I need to do more exercise, and I've been actually the last week or so I've been a lot better at making sure I get some Metamucil. I think I forgot yesterday because I was tired, but yeah, no, I need to make sure I have that. I feel like I need a checklist of things to do health related every day. No sticky rice, parboiled. I don't know cooking terms. I mean, like I'm not supposed to use the barbecue because one time they told me to watch the barbecue and I took the instruction a little bit too literally. But I don't cook very much, so I don't really know cooking terms very well. Mum did try to get me a cooking for kids book one time. The thing is, like, when you look at them, they're like, it says cooking for kids, but I still felt like some of it was kind of complicated. Like, they had this recipe for making pizza, including the pizza dough, and that is not easy to do when you don't have the tools. Like, now we have a steam oven, and now we have an oven that also has like a steam thingy, and that makes it easier to make dough. But back then we didn't, so I was trying to make dough and trying to keep it warm through my own crappy engineering methods, and it was a pain in the butt. It took forever, and then, you know, the payoff, I should have just gone to Woolies and bought a base there, you know? So, you know, cooking for kids, yeah, right. And then the one, like, everything else in it, like, it's mostly, a lot of it was sandwich-based stuff, and I guess because I grew up half Japanese, I'm not a huge fan of bread unless it's, like, toast. It depends. Like, I'm not hugely anti-bread. I just, for cooking type stuff, I feel like if it's more complicated than toast, it should be something rice or pasta based. I don't know. So I wasn't interested in that. A lot of like too much veggies type stuff. There just wasn't much in that book that I actually wanted to cook. But there was this one little thing. It's like you have those little cupcake holder things, right? And then you paint inside it with the chocolate, and eventually, and then you put that in the fridge, and eventually it solidifies, whatever. And then you put like this mix of cream and strawberry type stuff. I forget exactly what it was. And they're actually really nice. It's just like there was such a pain in the butt to make. I'm like, how is this kids cooking? Shouldn't kids cooking be simple, or at least have some simpler, tastier recipes instead of all this other garbage? I don't know. So, like, I can cook if I have to, but I don't like to. Cooking makes a huge mess. You have to wash stuff, and I don't like that. And then, you know, when you're chopping things, you know, you have to wash your hands because things like, you know, if you're chopping chicken and then you get all the oily stuff, and, you know, I don't like the mess that is cooking. And then you have to stand there for ages stirring something, or, you know, if you can chuck it in the oven, it's not so bad, but, we've got freaking Skynet ovens now, so I'm just a bit like, if I mess with it and muck that up, that's not gonna be great. I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of cooking. I'm not very good at domestic stuff in general. I'm better at like the weird stuff. Fixing my parents' Netflix, for example. Yeah. How did we get onto cooking? I don't even know. I was talking about carbs and so on. Oh yeah, parboiled. I don't know what that is. One of the only things I ever make is like chicken and omelets and stuff, and it's like looking at the amount of dishes that I need to clean to just eat a small breakfast makes it feel not worth it. Yeah, I know what you mean. Hey, you know, like you want to cook something and enjoy it without having to clean everything up afterwards. It's just like, come on. Yeah, so I tend to prefer simple stuff. Also, like with my tastes, I'm not really into fancy food. You know, I'm into more basic kinds of food. I don't know why this is, but yeah, once you start getting too crazy with stuff, I'm out. You know, I just give me some toast, or just give me like, you know, we've got these little packets of tortellini that you keep in the fridge, and then you just chuck it in some boiling water. 5 minutes later, it's done. Chuck some sauce on it. You know, easy. 5 minutes of cooking, done. And then all you have to clean is like the strainer thing and the pot itself. Have you ever tried bubble tea? Yes, bubble tea, Cha Time. I need to get the app to get like the loyalty points. I'm annoyed that everything's an app these days. Nando's doesn't force you onto an app though. You can just use the card. So I don't have the Nando's app yet, but I do have a Nando's card. But Cha Time, I think, have moved to an app rather than the loyalty card. And yeah, Mum introduced me to bubble tea, and my favorite order is the mango black tea with red popping pearls and half ice, because full ice is too cold. I get cold easily. It's too much. Yeah, and the red popping pearls are really fun. And then when you get to the end and you're sort of like hunting for the popping pearls amongst the ice at the bottom, I enjoy that a lot. But the mango black tea, you can barely taste the black tea. So does it count as bubble tea? It says it is. And it's just like I'm more into that mango-y taste. If like I've had different ones, but they tasted too much like tea. And if it's gonna be tea, I generally prefer it to be warm. Whereas my usual order at Cha Time is always the cold one. I know they have warmer teas, but it just feels weird to me. Yeah, so I always order the same stuff when it's bubble tea. I'm also a creature of habit, so I do tend to have my go-to orders. So like at Nando's, I always get the classic burger, lemon and herb, and then if I'm getting a meal, I'll get the chips, but without the peri-peri salt, just with regular, because peri-peri is too spicy for me. And then yeah, Coca-Cola or whatever. Although with the classic burger, every now and then they give you a coupon to put extras on it, so the extras I would put were bacon and pineapple. Yeah. And then what, if we go to Thai, I always get pad Thai. Doesn't really matter what it is, but usually we get chicken. If it's Indian, it'll be butter chicken. Hopefully not too spicy, because I don't like spicy stuff. So if it's spicy butter chicken, I tend to be like, yeah, no. Let's go somewhere else. What else? That udon place, we almost always get the same thing. Kama get udon. Otherwise, the Wagyu beef one is okay as well. Yeah, there are some places that I'll order different things, but there are other places where I just order the same thing every damn time. Because it's easier that way. You know, knowing that I'm a picky eater, if I take a risk and try something new, there's a chance that I won't like it. So, yeah, like, I'm not just going to be able to eat it anyway, unless I'm, like, with people. But in that case, they should order it. I'll order my usual thing, and then I'll try it from them, and then we'll find out if I like it and if I want to get it later. Hey, you're back! Woo! Yeah, so, those are some of my eating habits. Almost every morning I'll have toast, usually with peanut butter, but sometimes with Vegemite. I know a lot of you guys overseas don't understand the appeal of Vegemite. I've heard that sometimes foreigners try to put too much Vegemite on. Like, there's a point where Vegemite is too much, but if you put butter, you get your toast, you get a bit of butter, and then you put a thin layer of Vegemite on it. It can sometimes be a little bit hard to get it thin, you know, the right amount. But then it's fine, you know, Vegemite's great. I know in America there's like different kinds of stuff that's like Vegemite but not Vegemite. I don't know that I would try it. Yeah, I don't know, Vegemite, just like, what's it made out of? I have no idea. No one really asks the question, what's Vegemite made out of? I could go and grab the jar and we could read the ingredients, but like Nutella, what? What are you talking about? Vegemite's nothing like Nutella. Dead yeast? Hey, if it's made out of the bodies of dead yeast, maybe that explains why I enjoy it. I've always wanted to try Vegemite, but the reactions I see are always either utter horror or absolute joy. I have no idea. Yeah, oh, Vegemite, I like it. The main reason it's not my go-to spread is because there's 2 steps. Like with peanut butter, my theory is because peanut butter is already butter, you don't need more butter. So I just get the toast, peanut butter, you're done. Whereas with Vegemite, it's toast, butter, then Vegemite, and you're done. And you know, that's 1 extra step, and me being lazy, I'm like, well, that's 1 extra step I don't need unless I'm definitely in the mood. Although with toast, generally peanut butter, but if I'm gonna have like English muffins, has to be Vegemite. Peanut butter on an English muffin just doesn't feel right. So English muffin always is Vegemite for me. I don't know why I'm like that, that's just a thing. But English muffins are smaller than the toast we usually get, so I feel like I don't really have enough to eat. Like, it's maybe better if I either am not that hungry or I know I'm about to go out and eat lunch somewhere with someone. Yeah. I'm a fan of bagels with, I don't know what lox is, and cream cheese. I'm not really a fan of bagels. Because see, bagels, they're shaped like a donut, but they're not tasty. And I'm like, so basically you're a donut of lies. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the bagel. If it's going to be donut shaped, it better be a donut. Smoked salmon. I'm not a fan of salmon. Lox is salmon, really? Well, that shows how little I know about fish. I don't really eat fish that much. Salmon. I think salmon might be one of the easier fish to eat. I definitely don't like tuna. Although it doesn't help that Mikey likes tuna, and generally if Mikey really likes something that looks kind of, yeah, it turns me off. So I don't really like tuna, and I don't really like avocado because he's eaten avocado his entire life. What's that? Yeah. Bagels are so like thick and hard to chew to me, and like donuts of lies is like raisins when you're expecting chocolate chips in a cookie. Yeah, yeah. No, salmon occasionally, like we'll get a nice salmon, but like a big chunk of it, and then I don't know what mum does to it. I don't know what sorcery, but it tastes good when she does that. But mum's not a big fan of Australian fish. I don't know, I think she has a bias against it. She's like, Japanese fish is better. So we don't get a lot of fish. Tuna and avocado is my favorite sushi roll. No. I just like, the only way I can get into avocado is if it's like guacamole and so much lemon and so on has been added to it that you can't really taste the avocado anymore. Beef and tuna. Yeah, and I can't eat tuna because like the tuna, when a tuna comes in a tin, it's just like grey stuff. And then Mikey likes eating that grey stuff, and that just puts me off in the smell of it. Yeah, no, I'm not a tuna person. I don't know, I just, yeah. Sometimes Mikey eats the food that I do like though, and that's annoying because he's got a little bit of a stomach, especially because like it's hard for him to exercise and he eats a lot. And I'm like, dude, I'm the one who needs to put on weight, not you. So much better raw. Yeah, I don't know. I don't eat a lot of sashimi either. For some reason, I never really got into the raw fish thing, even though I'm half Japanese. It's just, I don't know, I guess it wasn't introduced to me early enough, and, yeah, canned tuna is like cat food. Oh man, I used to live with a cat out west, and, yeah, cats are, an odd creatures. But then aren't we all kind of odd in some way? Oh man, and this lip is still hurting. Maybe it's because I'm talking that it's hurting more. It's just like, I don't know, I probably shouldn't just like get on and be like, hey, everyone have a look at the painful thing in my mouth. Anyway, over the next few days it should fully clear up, and then probably just in time for me to make videos next week, and then I'll be able to talk with that feeling like I'm going, oh. Yeah, I don't know if I got like the tiniest bit of swelling in that area as well. I'm not sure. Anyway, at least I managed not to get sick over the past 2 weeks, because 2 weeks ago my boss at Bonsai was sick, but he goes to work anyway because he's kind of a workaholic, you know, like sometimes he'll just work 7 days a week, and I don't know how he fits anything else into his life, but he does. And he doesn't like taking holidays, so what do you know? So he came in even when he was sick, but I managed not to get sick, so hopefully I'm doing something right with my immune system, or I don't know, maybe just because I'm always resting, I don't really do much with my life, so my body's just like, yeah, that's okay, we'll be okay. Although, because I don't do much with my life, like I'm not particularly fit as a person, I'm not particularly healthy, I think that makes me assume that I'm more susceptible to catching colds. So I was a little bit surprised I didn't get sick after that. But hey, you know, I'm not complaining. You've got to take your wins sometimes. Anyway, what else has been going on? What else can I think about? Oh man, it's so distracting. It's hard to think about things while that little pain is going off. Let me just check here. Yeah, no, bagels. Bagels are the donuts of lies. I'm just not into them. Bonsai Job sounds to me like Karate Kid. I've never actually seen Karate Kid. I only know like a couple of references from it, and then the rest of the time I have no idea what's going on. There's a lot of classic movies and so on that I've never watched and don't really feel like it. I think one of the interesting things about culture is because there's so much more media to consume than there used to be back in the old days. So the cultural references that we pick up are starting to diverge more drastically. Huh? The third one is where they did bonsai. Oh, okay, I see. But yeah, no, as more cultural media is produced, and then different schools start teaching different things, because like schools come up with theories about teaching that some academic has thought, hey, this would be really good for the kids based on such and such research, but then you take it out into the real world and it doesn't always work. But you know, there's all these different approaches to teaching, so then different places will teach different stuff, especially like I think more of the left-wing kinds of approaches are more prone to move away from old school white canon and so on. So, you know, I guess less Shakespeare, more who knows what. So as we sort of diverge in our cultural approaches, I saw a bonsai with blue foliage, it looked amazing. Okay, I'm not sure what kind of species that would be. It's too much media these days. But yeah, so as like kids especially are taught different cultural things, and then we all grow up in our different subcultures, and we become exposed to different kinds of things, cultural references, I think some of them become a bit more vague just because we're less connected. So, you know, what you think might be a famous phrase or whatever turns out not to be famous in other circles. And I found that, you know, I spend a lot of time on the internet, and even though I'm old, I've managed to pick up like some bits of internet slang that sometimes other people haven't picked up, even though they might be the same sort of demographic as me. And then I'll put out, I'll be typing to someone, and I'll use an abbreviation like AFAIK, and people will be like, what the hell does that mean? And it means as far as I know. Yeah, and I don't know, I just guess I've just been exposed to the culture that uses those kinds of shortened words, and I think it makes sense. But people who aren't in the same kind of internet world as me are like, what the hell are you talking about? What does that even mean? So yeah, it's kind of interesting. And then sometimes like, I'll think of a quote from a movie, but because some of the movies I watch are a little bit obscure, people are like, what are you even talking about? And I'm like, damn it, no one understands my references, and it was so funny and so clever, but only if you watched the damn thing. Oh dear, I'm just gonna put a bit more of this stuff on because it's painful. Oh. Oh. Ah. Crap. Damn, that is painful. But But it'll be fine in a moment. I think just because I keep talking, it keeps rubbing the stuff off. And then it gets painful again. Hopefully next week though, I'll be fine. Anyway, so 2002. Maybe it is just a sign of me being old. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old for the kids now, and my language is just, yeah. What was I doing in 2002? 2002, I would have been in year 8 at high school. Now it's yeet this and yeet that. Yeah, see, I don't know yeet. I think I looked it up one day, and it was something related to furries. But I don't know what everyone else thinks it is. I still don't know what yeet means. Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, internet culture's sort of diverged a bit too. Ah, dear. And so we're all going to be giving references to different things and thinking we understand each other, but actually we kind of don't. And I think that's sort of interesting for the future because, one thing, like, you know, with globalization, one of the things that particularly anthropologist type people or, you know, whoever, one of the things a lot of people get concerned about with globalization is, like, especially Western culture invading everything, other languages dying because English is so... Oh, YIF was for furries. I don't know what yeet originally meant, but apparently now it has to do with being thrown or launched really far. Yeet and dab are the memes that make me feel old. Yeah, I don't understand the dab thing. It gives me the shits. I'm just like, why does anyone think that's cool or interesting, or... I don't get it. Yeah, no, with the globalization, English getting into everything, Western culture getting into everything, it looks stupid. Which looks stupid? Oh, the dab thing, right. Yeah. What am I trying to say? So, we're worried with globalization that everything's going to be like white, westernized, whatever, English speaking, whatever. But if you think about internet culture and, you know, different groups going off into their little corners of the internet, you're kind of getting the emergence of new cultures that are their own kind of diversity, and it's not becoming like a monoculture. There are still like all these different things. So it's kind of interesting how the internet, I think the internet does encourage English, partly because like internet coding, a lot of computer coding, because it was made in like, you know, America and English speaking places, internet code is in American English. Like color, COLOR, oh my god, really? Even things like that, right? So coding things, HTML, whatever, it's American English. And so if you want to learn to program, you've kind of got to know a little bit of English to make it easier. Like the Federation in Star Trek, there will still be cultural difference with a world government. Yeah, and it's just there's so many people that even when everyone has to learn English, or, you know, I mean, English is seen as a very useful language these days, so a lot of people do try to learn it. You know, it opens up business opportunities and so on. And then things like YouTube, even. Everything on YouTube, the new features always support English first, because that's where it's made, you know? So there's all that kind of stuff. So yeah, like there are some aspects of the internet that do encourage monoculture type stuff, but at the same time, the internet's so big and there's so many people with the same kinds of interests that come together, they can form their own cultures. So you still get a type of diversity. It's not just not the kind of diversity we had in the past. We started cutting letters out of words because it was cheaper to print newspapers with smaller words or something. RIP color. Blade Runner, they spoke a mix of English and Chinese. Yeah, with the American spellings, part of it was also just simplifying and getting rid of letters and so on that were kind of unnecessary. For example, like in Australia, we've got the Labor Party. They're our more left of centre major political party. They spell it LABOR, whereas in like British English, Australian English, actually you would spell it LABOUR. And I think that's to do with like one of the founders of the Labour Party or whatever. They were thinking the simplification of language was a good thing, and that's why they named the party with a simplified spelling of Labour. And that's following like some of the American theorists who were like, why did the British bother with all these extra letters? We can simplify it, we can cut it down, make it make more sense. And in some sense, you know, I can kind of get it, but sometimes it's just annoying. And like, you know, let's choose a word like colonize, for example. We would spell it with an S, but Americans will spell it with a Z. And I'm like, colonize, okay, I guess it has sort of a Z sound, but it's kind of a soft Z, so it could be anywhere between the S and the Z. Like, was it really necessary to change all those spellings? I don't know. Like something like color, you don't really hear the OU. Maybe I can go with it, although color, I don't know. It's one of those weird things. But yeah, English and Chinese, I think possibly. The thing about Chinese, I don't know if it will really spread because it's really just like a small number of countries that speak Chinese, whereas English, even though population wise, it is because England had all these colonies, they were able to spread English to so many different countries. And so now a lot of countries have two languages as their main language. So then you have English and whatever. And I don't feel like China, because China stopped their whole expansion kind of thing way back in the time of emperors and whatever, and they became very much internalized. So Chinese didn't get spread out, and the only place that Chinese really is useful is in China. And a few other places. Whereas with English is useful in so many places. I don't know that Chinese is going to have quite as much impact. American liberal and Australian liberal. What was the question with American liberal and Australian liberal? Yeah, I'm not sure. There was one thing I don't know why we changed, but we use Z instead of Z. And I mean, Z just sounds cooler in the first place. Oh, that's interesting. Because some people would think Z sounds cooler. I guess it depends a bit on your perspective there. If you're singing the ABC song, Z I think rhymes better because it's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z doesn't rhyme, whereas Z does. And so like when you're a kid growing up in Australia, they're like, it's not Z, it's Z. And we're like, but Z makes more sense in this context. I think China has gotten... Okay, yeah, I don't know about whether China is trying to spread their language. Apparently Chinese is better for like people with certain kinds of learning problems. Is it dyslexia or something? Because in English, there are a lot of letters that are kind of similar, just like rotated. And I think that's difficult for people with dyslexia, whereas with Chinese characters, they're like, you know, all these little bits and pieces. It's kind of hard to mistake them. But yeah, I don't know. China can try and spread the language, but I think English has maybe been a little bit more accepted just because it got there early. That's kind of how things happen. I have trouble with Mandarin. Yeah, oh, when I was on that cruise, I tried to learn Mandarin. I've probably got a video of me trying to awkwardly pronounce stuff, but the lady was a bad teacher. She didn't really explain it. Like, I kind of know that there's tone things, but she didn't explain, like, she didn't really explain it. She's just teaching it as if you would teach any other language, and it's like, no, Chinese has... Anyway. So yeah, I don't really, at this point, feel that China is going to spread the language that much. Yeah, it doesn't help that they're kind of dickheads to their own people and whatever, but hey, what do I know? I may be proven wrong. As for your question about liberal, in terms of Australia and the US, okay, so in America, liberal is like the more of the left-wing kind of thing, the opposite of conservative, freedoms, blah, blah, liberties, whatever. In Australia, so I think you would still call them liberal values to some extent, but liberal is associated with right of centre, and that's because our main right of centre party is called the Liberal Party. And I think maybe their interpretation, I mean, I don't know, because I haven't really looked into the history of why they're called these things. But it's like, I think it's sort of to do like liberal, okay, so left-wing stuff tends to be freedom for like as many people as possible, whatever, I don't know, something like that, more like a collective. Whereas fascist, I don't, just distracting trying to read all the comments and figure out what you're all saying. It's hard because I'm not entirely sure what it means in America. Like in America, liberals, okay, so liberals are about freedoms and so on, but I think maybe it tends more towards collectivist freedoms. Whereas I think in Australia, the Liberal Party is about individual freedoms, and whereas the Labor Party is much more about workers' rights, unions, that kind of collective stuff, and that's why they're left of centre. Whereas the Liberals' personal freedoms include stuff like business, and so instead of they're very much more about individual businesses and then big business as well, because that's who they're funded by. The Labor Party is funded by a lot of big unions, and the Liberals are funded by a lot of big business. It's kind of like the two, they're basically the same kinds of things, big organizations funding our main political parties, just from different perspectives, both making their own kinds of profits in their own ways. Libertarian, I don't know about libertarian. It's complicated. I mean, the main reason Australians think Liberals are right wing is because the right-leaning party is called the Liberal Party. As for the meaning of actual liberalism and so on, we don't really use that term so much in Australia, quite possibly because the existence of the Liberal Party has confused it. I don't know. But yeah, that's the main reason we see it differently. So it gets a bit confusing for either Americans who've moved to Australia, who then try and vote for someone and they think they're voting for the Liberals, but they're actually voting for the Liberal Party. I've seen that happen. And then also when Australians are trying to understand what's going on in America and they keep hearing this stuff about Liberals and you're like, hang on, the Liberals are the left-wing guys? People will never learn that there has to be compromise. Well, it depends on how far left or right you go. You know, there's sort of the in-between, you know, left of centre, right of centre, and then the centre. That's where you get a bit more compromise. It's when people go too far left or too far right that you start getting a bit more intolerance for each other's perspectives, and yeah, people stop weighing up both sides of the story. And well, I don't know that people naturally go to the extremes, but there's always like individuals who are extreme, and because they're extreme, they tend to be more passionate about whatever cause it is, so they tend to go up the ranks. This is my theory. They tend to go up the ranks, and then they drive whatever movement it is more to the extreme, even though the rest of the group might not be into it. Because they're the passionate ones, they take control, and that's how they drive it one way or the other. Yeah, it's kind of a difficult thing, and it's kind of difficult to balance everyone's needs. Politicians play on their fears. Yeah, I mean, it very much depends, you know. It depends on how extreme any of these individuals are, the politicians, whoever, and what they're trying to achieve. And, you know, there are flaws in democracy. Just like the need to get elected creates this kind of competition that can sort of mess up the good intentions that people start out with. It's unfortunate, but it's just one of those things. You know, it's not a perfect system, but it's one of the better ones that we have. Same with capitalism, right? You know, like communism had some cute ideas, but it doesn't work in practice. And capitalism has some shit ideas, but in practice has done a good lot of decent stuff, bringing the average up. So it's not perfect, but it's currently the best system we have. Doesn't mean true democracy since ancient Greece. How do you know ancient Greece was a true democracy though? Like, what makes a true democracy? How do you know in the past, like, how do you know there was ever a time that democracy wasn't messed up by people who were trying to play the system? Do you know what I mean? Like, with any idealistic pursuit that humans go for, there are going to be people who try and twist it to their own ends. That's just the reality of things. And so we've got to try and find compromises and ways around that to get the best possible outcome that we can manage at the time. You know, it's difficult. I don't think it makes sense to make strong statements like that, because everyone had to serve and they couldn't be a career politician. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know enough about things back then. But it just wouldn't be practical to do something like that with the population size we have now. And there's also some argument to say that certain people probably shouldn't be involved. I mean, the most obvious example of someone who shouldn't be involved in democracy would be my brother. My disabled brother, because he can't even understand the concept of democracy. But then if you move to people who are not as severe as him, but still don't quite get it, like at what point do you cut off someone from being able to participate in the democratic process? My little brother absolutely cannot. He doesn't understand it. Democracy doesn't work in a mental institution. Yeah. It is, people have different levels of education, different levels of engagement, different levels of interest. It's very difficult to get a proper balance on like what would be the best system of government. Is really hard to say because what works for certain people doesn't work for other people. I think that's just the nature of humanity. It can be hard with us all being different and all thinking different things, but on the other hand, that's one of the strengths of humanity as well, because we have a lot of ideas going around, which means we can come up with more interesting solutions to problems that we have. Whereas if we didn't have all these crazy ideas every now and then, we'd be pretty stagnant. So all that kind of political stuff's very difficult. It's very hard to please the most number of people without, messing up something else. Humans are flawed, therefore governments will be flawed. Yeah, that's basically what I'm saying. It's very hard to find a good balance, and I think sometimes things will tip one way for a bit and then they'll tip the other way, and that's just how it is. I don't know. Politics is tiring, I gotta say. But yeah, no, that original question, liberals versus liberals. The Liberal Party, more right wing. Liberals in America, more left wing. Some of the left wing liberals in America are quite scary because they've gone a little bit too far to the left. But hey, what can you do? In Australia, the Liberal Party, some of the Liberals strike me as centrists, but in the last few years, there have been a lot more right-wing Liberals who've tried to control the party. We finally got rid of Tony Abbott, so that's one really bad influence that's gone. And you hope that the Liberal Party will be able to get their shit together, but it's hard to say. I mean, bloody ScoMo, who's our Prime Minister at the moment, at Hillsong, and you're just like, bloody Hillsong, really? Anyway, that's another thing for another day. I didn't have energy to really watch what's going on. There's been a bit of a debate about religious freedoms here in Australia at the moment, because there's like this rugby player who said some shit. In ancient Greece, people dropped dead because they didn't wash their hands. Who needs that? Yeah, we got to be careful how much we glorify things in the past, because sometimes there were okay things in the past, but a lot of the time it's been polished up by history to look better than it was. I just think humans could do better, but there's too much greed and too much wealth is controlled by the smallest number of people. I don't know if humans could do better. I think flaws are kind of fundamentally tied into who we are. So yeah, I don't know if we could do better. I mean, it's very difficult, especially right now. There's so many different challenges all around the world. Yeah, I don't know. Call me a pessimist and a cynic, but I don't know that we could do better. I think it would be nice if we could do better, but realistically, I don't know. And, there's been a lot of nationalistic push in the last few years from a lot of different countries. And I think it's just like, things sort of going on the seesaw, rocking back in another direction, and hopefully it doesn't go too far and it starts rocking back the other way before it gets too bad. But hey, what can you do? Population getting too large? Well, see, population growth is another interesting thing, because at some point it probably will level out, because as people become more wealthy and, are pulled out of poverty, they start having less kids generally on average. And that tends to stabilize the population. What's going to be difficult is when we reach a population that becomes more stable. The problem, I think, then will be the economy, because, for some reason, economists are obsessed with population growth, because that seems to stimulate economies, brings more customers, whatever, and so population growth is seen as good to boost economies. But if things stabilize, like, what are you going to do then? Because there's only a certain number of consumers. Pyramid scheme. Yeah, it's like a pyramid scheme. And I'm kind of a fan of the trickle up idea, where you support, you know, through welfare, you support the people who are at the bottom of the scheme, because they can't afford to save money. They're not going to take that extra money and stick it in the bank where it's going to rot. They're actually going to buy stuff, and then that stimulates retail, and then the retail guys will also go out and buy stuff, and then it gets, you know, until it goes up to the top. But we don't seem to be going for that approach. We keep going for the thing of like tax cuts. So we've got planned tax cuts for the wealthy and a flattening of our tax system in like 5 years. So God knows if we even have the same prime minister then, because it's Australia. We don't have a good record on that. My only thing with population growth is idiocracy becoming a reality. Oh my God. Reaganomics. I'm not hugely familiar with Reaganomics, but you know, the whole idea of giving tax cuts. I mean, tax cuts, the first tax cuts coming in will be for the people at the bottom on the lowest incomes. But they're not going to be able to spend a whole lot because they're paying off debts and whatever. And what, it hasn't become idiocracy already? Yeah, it is a bit of a trickle down. I mean, we're starting at the lowest, so that's good. But when we finally get up to those high level tax cuts, I mean, there was a lawyer saying, like, why do we need this? Like, I might spend a little bit extra, but a lot of it will go into savings or to, you know, whatever, things that aren't exactly going to go back into the economy. And yeah, I just don't know that that's really the right approach. I feel like if you, because, you know, we've got people on our welfare system, the dole hasn't increased for ages. And there are people who are struggling to afford anything to be able to keep themselves presentable, to be able to find jobs, so they get stuck in this cycle. And some of them have health problems and so on, and we just treat them like shit. But if you gave them a little bit of extra money, they might be able to buy those nice shoes to go and get a job, you know, so that they don't look like garbage every time they show up. I think in America, the rich people don't pay enough taxes. I think in Australia it's not quite as bad, although, you know, to some extent it is. We definitely have in Australia, especially in Sydney, the cost of living is quite high. But yeah, no, it's tricky to education and healthcare. We've already got that in Australia, and we've still got people struggling, you know. It's very difficult to manage, but I do feel like if we started from the bottom, those people have to spend the money. Whereas if you give tax cuts to the rich, they could stick it into savings, they could spend it on a holiday overseas and take all their money overseas, which isn't helping our economy, it's helping someone else's, I guess. But yeah, no, a lot of them would just sit on it, put it into shares or something, and, you know, it doesn't really go back into the economy because they don't have a need to spend it. Automation, AI, and energy from fusion is the only way out. Hey, I think energy just from nuclear in general, never mind fusion, would be good. Because I don't know that we've really figured out fusion properly yet. But, you know, if we at least tried nukes, that'd help us out on the energy side of things. As for, like, automation and AI, I like, one of the things that I've had in my head for a long time is, like, with communism, right? A lot of people would be like, oh, you know, we should give communism a go because, like, these other guys who ended up killing a whole bunch of people and starving people and whatever, they weren't doing communism right. But the thing is, if you leave it in the hands of humans, it will always go wrong. But if robots were handling communism, and say the robots were doing all the work and were able to regulate things, would communism work if the robots were in charge of that kind of stuff? That's what I kind of wonder. On the other hand, though, I am a fan of Isaac Asimov type fiction. So, you know, there are some aspects to communism where, like, you can't really tolerate the people who go outside the rules because they start unbalancing the system. So would robots be worse in terms of cracking down on that? Kind of interesting stuff to think about. But I do wonder if, like, automation and AI in that sense would help make communism work better. They set back fission research so far because of fear. I don't know. Oh, fission research. Yeah, fission research is very fear affected, unfortunately. iRobot, yeah. iRobot the movie. I've also got iRobot the book, and that had some interesting extra stories. including an interesting one about missiles, where computers are seen as so valuable that if you wanted to put a computer in a missile, actually just put a person in it because people are worthless. Is a very interesting story. And then on Netflix, I watched with Dave. Dave found this movie. It was called I Am Mother. Interesting. That was actually worth watching. If you get on Netflix, I Am Mother. I won't say too much, just so that you can watch it. But it was one of those kinds of robot stories and some interesting stuff going on there. A couple of mild plot holes that I did discuss with him, and it was nice to have my brother also like thinking about this sometimes, because like sometimes he'll just take the movie at face value, but we were both like, hang on. And so we had a little chat about what was actually going on in that movie. Let me just catch up on some of this. So, AI simulations of populations and the world are always interesting since they can very quickly fast forward the reality and simulation. Issue is simulations still programmed by people, so who knows how artificial it can ever get. Okay, there is this interesting idea that our AIs, the way we're training them, they have biases because we trained biases into them. I think that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. I have the book. In World War II, they developed bombs guided by pigeons. Yeah, I saw a thing about that. But in the end, they didn't really need them because, I mean, there's some issues with trying to do that with a pigeon, but they also just developed better guiding systems. I remember hearing about the pigeon bomb on the White Rabbit Project. I think they did a lot of wild stuff in World War II. Yeah, they tried a bunch of stuff. I don't know that a lot of the animal stuff really worked out though. What there was like, I think, was it the Germans who tried to train dogs to run with bombs under enemy tanks? But the thing is, they trained the dogs with their own tanks, so the dogs would go out but come back and blow up their own tanks. Which is like, yeah, good job. They also had a bomb made of bats with incendiaries tied to them. Oh dear. Yeah. It's unreliable with some of those animals, hey? And that's why we use computers and so on. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Hey Hobie, what are you looking at? Hey, I see you. Oh, you're living a relative life of luxury, aren't you? You don't have to do any of that bullshit. Hmm? Oh, he's doing a big stretch. Oh, Hobie, you want to come here? No, you're just going to sit there and watch me. Oh dear, this thing is so painful. Anyway, so we've jumped around to animals in war, hey? But yeah, no, artificial intelligence, I think it's moving too slowly for me to stay interested in it. I used to want to work in that sort of area, like robotics and artificial intelligence, but once I sort of figured out that it was moving so slowly, I was just like, yeah, I think I'll stick to fiction. What are you using for your lip pain? Medigel. So, the cool thing about Medigel is, like, it doesn't burn my mouth like SM33 gel did. That stuff, you put it on, and it sort of gets rid of the pain, but then it spreads around your mouth, and then it burns the rest of your mouth, and then you have ulcers everywhere. And when I first used that, like, I didn't realize that was the cause, and I was just making it worse. It was really awful. That was the first time that I had heaps of mouth ulcers, and they were like, you might have to go to hospital if it gets any worse. But then we had like one of those doctors that comes to your house, and he recommended Medigel and also Cepacane mouthwash, and I started using those instead, and that cleared it up. I was able to eat and drink, so I didn't have to go to the hospital. Second time it happened, I wasn't using the SM33 gel anymore, but there must be something in my system that's not quite right, and they did the tests for the mouth herpes and all that. I used to get them when I was playing trumpet full time. Yeah, I wonder, like, maybe there's something I'm doing that's not great. But yeah, there was another time where I had a whole bunch of them as well. And I ended up having to be given steroids because that it just wasn't healing. So, yeah, but this time it's just the one mouth ulcer. So I don't think I'm getting quite as extreme as before, but it's still really quite painful. So I'll just quickly put a bit more on. Just like, oh. Yeah, it's probably worse because I'm talking a lot and so I'm moving that lip around. And I got the sticky stuff all over me again. Anyway, so yeah, I had two kind of health scares involving mouth ulcers, sort of going down the back of my throat as well. But yeah, the first time it was because of the SM33 gel. Second time, don't know what caused it. Might have been stress related actually, because that was around the time that I was doing my performances for my masters, my final masters of art project, you know, when I was doing my asexuality performances. So I couldn't do the second one because I had all these mouth ulcers. And yeah, steroids cleared that up. I didn't become Terminator, unfortunately, but it fixed me up and I didn't have to go to hospital. So I missed one. Speaking of AI, I've been on a binge of Code Lyoko. Not sure if you know it. Yeah, I don't know it. Bunch of middle school students fighting an intelligent supercomputer trying to kill humanity or something. Oh, okay. There was a book I read a long time ago, kids book, like children's or like teenagers book maybe, about some kids going into the internet. It's so outdated now though. What, the information superhighway? No one uses that phrase today. But I remember reading it a long time ago, and they go into the internet and come across this AI that's trying to make everyone the same, and I don't know, they had to kill it somehow. That was kind of interesting. I don't know, some of that old stuff is interesting to think about. Actually, you know, so I've got that gaming video coming up, whether that gets released on my channel or if I get the job and it releases on the other channel. The game that I'm playing is an old game from 20 years ago. So much fun revisiting that stuff. It's an older cartoon. Entire series is on YouTube though, so good to watch. I like Kizuna AI. She's a virtual YouTuber. She does game videos and other videos. Oh, okay. I didn't know virtual YouTubers were a thing. Oh dear, oh dear. I don't think she's true AI or just a person. Hey, it's hard to know. I think with some of that stuff, like they'll create imagery of like the character, but the person behind it is a real person. Unless there like lots of glitchy stuff happens. If there's lots of glitchy stuff, then it might be more legitimate AI. Japanese. Yeah, trust the Japanese to do that, hey. There's some interesting stuff in Japan. Good old Turing test. Yeah. But yeah, no, the game that I'm going to be doing the Let's Play of, it's a 20-year-old game, and there was this little thing that flashed up about dial-up internet and how you shouldn't be running a 4-player game on a 56k modem, and I'm just like, do you remember that noise? You know, the when you do dial-up, it's like, wee, ba-doing, ba-doing. I'm just like, yeah, that's how dubstep was invented. And then the game requires 32 megabytes of memory, of 32 megabytes of RAM, and you're just like, shit, man. There's a guy whose face capture replacement software bugged out during his stream. His character was like an anime girl, but his viewers were dedicated even after figuring out who they really were. I love playing vintage games and finding it nostalgic. Yeah, no, it's such a good game for being 20 years old. Yeah, one of my favorite games ever. One of the bonuses about being 20 years old though is once I got it to work, it's so fast. When I first got the game, you know, they've got those loading screens. On the first computer I played it on, I don't even remember what computer that would have been. Would it have been Windows XP or even earlier than that? Because it came out when like Windows 95 and 98 were a thing. I don't know if I ever played it on those systems. I probably did actually. When did we get Windows XP? Probably not till I was in year 10, so yeah, we probably did. Oh man, Windows 95, hey. But back then, it would take ages to load each level, so you'd just be like twiddling your thumbs, come back later and be like, is it loaded yet? And then it'd be loaded and then you could play. Now though, the loading screen is just like, and it's ready to go, and you can just get straight into the game. So bonus, it's so much easier to run those old games on new computers. I'm still looking for my favorite Mech Warrior. I feel like I played a demo of that maybe, or maybe that was another game. I don't know. Like, I've never been a huge gamer. 32 megabytes was fast, yeah. My current computer has 12 gigabytes of RAM. Next computer though, I'm probably looking at 32 gigabytes if I can afford it. Just because like the software that I want to try says 16 gigabytes minimum, but 32 recommended. And I'm like, I should at least go for the recommended amount. I know you can get machines with more. I'm trying to decide, like, should I go for extreme overkill just to, like, future-proof as much as possible? Especially now that technology seems to have slowed a bit in terms of those physical components. So if I could afford to get more than 32 gigabytes of RAM, but I don't know if I can because, you know, barely employed. I would be spending like the rest of my savings pretty much, which, yeah. Found an Alienware with 32 gigabyte, but it's over 3K US. Yeah, a lot of the computers that seem to fit my specifications, the cheapest I could find was about 3K, which is the most, like, in Australian dollars. And the most I've ever spent, as far as I can remember, on a computer would be 2K. A little bit extra if you count software, but, you know, software is kind of a different thing. For the machine itself, 2K. Expansion ports to add RAM later. Yeah, I mean, there's that. It's just like, the current computer that I have does have extra space for stuff. It's just like, because everything else is kind of getting dodgy, it's like, is it really worth it? And then you've got to make sure everything's compatible because it's such an old machine. And I'm just like, do I really want to waste so much time figuring that out? Like, how much is my time worth? If I convert my time into dollars, does it make more sense just to go and buy one and be done with it, you know? And the other thing is, like, even though I do tend to buy good computers, like the best I can get, it's a little bit less predictable, like how long is a computer going to last? How much value am I going to get out of it? This is probably the longest lasting computer I've had, apart from my MacBook Pro, which I use only for music, so it's not really the most functional machine, but it does the job that I intended it to do. It's just like, if I invest in a really good computer now, how do I know how long it's going to last? Because yes, if I do overkill, it'll be easier to upgrade it in terms of like operating system, and it'll also just like be able to run more future programs more easily. But on the other hand, when you look at things like the way they update phones today, a dodgy update can ruin your phone, especially if you're on Apple. And also, like, Apple operating systems, every time they update, have been shit in terms of your old devices. I don't know, I never updated my MacBook Pro because it was on Snow Leopard, and that worked perfectly, whereas all my friends at music school, when they went to Lion, I think was the next one, a lot of their software was broken until people were able to patch things, and it's just like, and you know, slows down because the hardware wasn't designed for it. The processor has to be able to handle it. Too bad you can't lease PCs like a car. You kind of can in Australia, like some people do rent out computers. Trade in a PC to upgrade it, that'd be a dream. There are places where you can do something similar. Can't stand updates on Apple or Microsoft. Microsoft doesn't bother me as much. I feel like Apple are the ones... Apple feels like they're playing the built-in obsolescence game, and they want you to upgrade because they just want to take your money more than anything else. And their quality is a bit more variable than it used to be. They used to make better quality stuff, but they kind of dropped the ball. And then they started focusing more on their mobile devices, so they let their computers go to shit. And now they're trying to get the computers back up to speed, but it's like, can we really trust you anymore? So yeah, I feel like Microsoft is a little bit more trustworthy on that kind of thing, because also Apple only really releases their software for Apple, whereas Microsoft has to make sure it's compatible on a whole bunch of different devices. Every auto update on my PC always messes something up. Yeah, I mean, updates on PC, mine doesn't auto update, but I have been keeping on top of my updates a lot better now. There are things that go wrong, but like my computer's from 2011, and there have been a few hiccups, but overall the updates have been fine, and I know how to recover it, and you know, I've got the flexibility to get rid of shit if it's really bad. Don't know what that's like on Windows 10, but on my Windows 7 it's fine. And I feel like Microsoft have learnt some hard lessons over the last few years as Apple has taken over certain areas. So I feel like Microsoft has sort of got the idea. Also, they released some dodgy updates lately, like a few months back, but I think they sort of realized, gee, maybe we should test things a little bit longer. You know, they feel like they're a little bit more responsive than Apple. Apple does shit like getting rid of headphone ports without thinking about how that'll impact shit. I like that you can choose what updates you download for Microsoft. Yeah, I feel like Microsoft's better. But I do feel like overall, I'm a bit concerned that a lot of these companies, because there's so much pressure to get things out fast, they don't test them as well. Apple, it's all or nothing. Yeah. So yeah, how long is my stuff actually gonna last, given that software companies they don't have as good quality control, they're really into the competition mode, you know, to the point of compromising the product sometimes. That's a concern. Like, so at what level do I invest in the best hardware I can get, but also weigh up the fact that I don't really trust the software companies and I don't know how long the computer's going to last. You know, should I spend a little less so that it's less painful when I upgrade again later, you know? Trapped with Apple phones now. Why are you trapped? Surely you can change over. I mean, I guess there's like some apps and stuff that you're more loyal to, but you can change. I don't know. I started off with the Apple iPod. I didn't get a phone for ages, but using this. Oh, do you mean with like? Yeah, you're still mad about him. Oh, okay, you mean with hardware. Yeah, Apple's a bit shit about like changing ports and then making people buy new hardware in terms of like speaker systems and whatever. I'm just like, oh my god, Apple, fuck off. You know, like if you were trying not to look like one of those evil corporations, maybe that's something you should think about. You know? Dear, oh dear, oh dear. You know, Microsoft, like, you know, I trust them more because they have to make sure it works on as many systems as possible because they have so many different hardware people who are using the same software. Apple TV? I don't know anything about Apple TV, but, you know, you do you. I just, like, would not trust Apple generally. Yeah, no. I just have to use them because I like Logic Pro 9. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter. What's going on, Hopi? You gonna let me know when someone gets home? They shouldn't be home for a while though, but you never know with Mikey. What? What are you woofing about? Oh, what a scary noise. Hey, Hopi? Oh. Apple has become embarrassing, a weird fanboy cult I won't be seen with them. Oh, you don't want to go to that extreme, you know, you got to take different things on their merits, but that there is definitely fanboy culture associated with Apple, but there are people who get obsessed with all kinds of brands for silly reasons. And you just got to decide for yourself which things you are actually worth it, like whether the hardware is good, whether the software experience is good, you know. I don't like any corporations, my phone is always listening and then they put ads about what I talked about. Yeah, that kind of shit's freaky. That's why, like, you know, I've seen in America people get into like those Google Home devices and I'm like, why? I don't understand the appeal. But maybe it's because in Australia we don't have so many smart objects and they're not really that promoted here. Oh, Hopi. Oh, he's settled down. He's got a little toy hamburger up there. Don't you, Hopi? What you got? You got a toy? Yeah? No? You're just gonna stay there? Alright, well, that's my dog pretending to be a cat on the windowsill. Dear, oh dear. Let's turn it back, hey. Yeah, he loves sitting in those funny kinds of places. Oh, and he's giving me a face. But yeah, no, what happened to the sunlight? I guess it's just that time of day where it's moved. I could turn on that dicky little exposed light bulb, but it's probably not going to give enough light to make a huge difference. Yeah. Anyway, what else is going on? So that's like tech stuff. I don't like having to choose. I use both. Same thing with other pop culture. You're either Star Wars or Trek fan, but I didn't see a reason to choose science. Yeah, a lot of people fall into the trap of black and white thinking and, you know, getting so loyal to just one side of things. And yeah. Oh my god! Is it going to keep reconnecting? I think we're still live. But yeah, no, every stream it's done that reconnecting thing, and that just did it like 3 or 4 times, and I don't know what's going on. Video is back, yay! Oh my gosh, well I've still got 37% battery, so it's not that. It vanished for a minute, okay, it was telling me that I was still like coming in and out, but yeah, no, that's really annoying. It's been doing that the last few streams, and I don't know why. Because I'm sitting right next to the wireless router, like, so how hard can it be to stay connected? I don't get it. And you know, having dropouts again, yeah, I don't know what's going on, because I'm on the right Wi-Fi thingy. There was actually a blip when I tried to start the stream. It did something funny, But yeah, no, I'm sitting right next to the internet router and it just drops out and I don't know why. We're on cable internet still, so the same thing Foxtel runs through, because the boys need their sport, so they watch Foxtel, even though it's expensive. Could be interference. Yeah, but if it's interference and I'm sitting right next to the wireless router, like, what is interfering in the, like, meter and a half that distance that it is away from it? I don't know. It seems very odd. So that's pretty annoying. I lost interest in sports. Spooky Ghost is playing around in the Wi-Fi. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at some point we're going to be switched over to the NBN because, you know, people aren't being given a choice. But, you know, in, like, rural areas, they're forcing people onto the NBN. And in some cases, because of the way it's set up, it makes the internet connection worse, which is the opposite of what was supposed to happen. And I'm like, if you can't make the internet good in those places, why not let people keep their old ADSL connections? I don't understand what the government and the NBN company are thinking. You know, if it doesn't work, don't force people to switch. So we're waiting to find out when we'll be forced to switch to NBN. Hopefully it'll still be kind of reliable. I think the best possible connection you can get is 100 down and 40 up, which would be amazing if I had 40 up. At the moment, you know, I'm lucky if I can get 4 up. So when I'm uploading a 2 gigabyte video, you know, that video game one, was 2 gigabytes because I did render it at a lower bitrate. I rendered it at the recommended bitrate by YouTube rather than the full-on one that software usually does. But because it was 30 minutes and I decided not to compress it later in Windows Media because it would be 25 frames and I wanted it to stay 30 frames. 2 gigabyte file and then it takes 2 hours to upload, which is a pain in the butt. So if I could get 40 up, that'd make things so much better for YouTube. I switched providers because they said they're faster because it's fiber optic, but it's slower than my cable modem was. Yeah, in Australia, they're bringing in that sort of optic, whatever, fiber, and they're making everyone switch, which is kind of odd. And like we've already got 100 download, but it's just 4 up. So the main benefit to switching to NBN, if it works, is I would get 40 up. And then instead of taking 2 hours to upload, how long would that be? Like what, 20 to 30 minutes? It'd just be so much faster. But we'll find out if it's actually going to be any good. I do live in like one of those more well-off suburbs, so if things go to shit, you'd think that the NIMBYs around here would protest, but hey, who knows? You know, it's sometimes in some places in Australia, like one side of the street will get really good internet connection and then the other side of the street won't. It's this really bizarre kind of thing. And you know, sometimes they'll have like, I don't know, it's exhausting keeping up with all the crappy decisions that are being made around that kind of thing. Like, it's a nice idea to give everyone fast internet, especially these days when you kind of need it, but it's not being rolled out the best way. It's one of those projects that was announced by Labor but delivered by Liberals, and you know, some things got fucked up along the way. I think even if Labor had been in charge of rolling it out, there'd still be a lot of issues. Just some of the decisions that were made, I think Labor would have been less likely to make, like about the fiber to the node shenanigans. But who knows? They shouldn't force it on people, yeah. Frustrating, but yeah, Australian internet doesn't exactly have the best reputation, and it doesn't help that our population is too low to have made this happen just naturally through competition between providers. We had to have the government involved. Yeah, because our population density isn't really enough. Although I hear in, I think in Adelaide, or I'm pretty sure Adelaide, it's definitely South Australia at least, in the business district, we're trying to put in like super fast internet to try and attract businesses to go there. Because Adelaide's one of those cities that often gets ignored in Australia. We're very East Coast dominated because that's where I guess most people live. So South Australia gets a little bit forgotten, and they're like, well, how do we compete? Let's get super fast internet into the business district, trying to attract more companies to come. So kind of a smart move, I think. I haven't heard anything about it for a few years, though. Is Mikey home? Do I have to go? I can hear Hope woofing, but yeah, I don't Yeah, no, Mikey's here. Okay, I'm gonna have to end the stream, so I will see you guys next week, hopefully. I'll let you know when we're gonna stream again. Thanks for joining me. Have fun and all that. Bye-bye! See you, Charles. See you, Mystic Ravenous. I don't know, and everyone else. Catch you later.